Alright, today we're going to be doing our troubleshooting video for our 22 Civic Sedan V1 LED taillights. These are our LED taillights. They're made up of 4 pieces. You have your outside light, you have your inner trunk light piece, and then you'll have the same pieces on the passenger side. So we're going to walk you through how to test the outside light for functionality and to test the inside trunk light for functionality as well. This test is very important because if you're having an issue with one of the functions not working on the taillight piece and you send us an email, we do have to have the troubleshooting completed to verify if there's a problem with the taillight and then for any warranty claims. So to do the testing, you're just going to need either a power inverter like this one right here, or if you don't have a power inverter, that's fine. Just think of it as your car battery. So just get you 2 wires and you can hook one up to the negative terminal in your battery and one up to the positive terminal in your battery. And that will replicate the inverter we have here to do the direct power test. Again, it does have to be a direct power test. You can't use like a voltmeter or anything like that to test it. It does need to actually have a direct power test to verify it comes on or if it doesn't come on. All right, so we're going to start with the outside light here first. So on the back of the outside light, we have a couple of connections here. We have this orange connection here, which has 2 wires on it, the black and the yellow. So this is going to be the power wire. The yellow is the power wire for the turn signal. The black is the ground wire for the turn signal. And then we have this big black connector here. 3 wires on it, a black one, a red one, and a green one. Black is the ground. The red is going to be for the brake, and the green is for the animation and running light. And then the last connector we have is this little small black one right here. So this one right here, this actually has 3 wires on it. It has a red, a blue, and a yellow. The red is for the brake. It sends a signal for the brake up to the trunk light because the factory trunk light does not have a brake on it. And the yellow is also for the turn signal. It does the exact same thing. Sends the turn signal up to the trunk light because the factory trunk light doesn't have a turn signal on it. The blue one, we won't be testing that one. This is for the Euro fog light, which is not used on the US models. So you can ignore that particular wire there. All right, so to do our test, first we're going to take our negative wire here. And we're going to go ahead and we'll start with our turn signal. So I'm just going to take and you need to hook the negative wire up to the pin on the front, or in this case, since I have a needle tool here, I'm just going to push it through to the back to hit the metal connection. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to take my positive wire here and I'm going to hook it up to the pin on the front here. That is for that yellow wire. And we should get our turn signal to come on here. Yep, there you go, and turn signal will come on, and you'll notice since we're testing it, it just stays on, which is fine. This just tells us that the turn signal is fully functional. Okay, so we know the turn signal is working. We're going to go ahead, while we still got this hooked up, and we're going to test the yellow wire on the smaller connector. The reason why we want to do this is because the yellow wire here gets its ground from this orange connector here. So this will just verify that the outside light is going to send the signal for the turn signal up to the trunk light through that long harness that's in the box. And testing it out, yep, we can see, there we go. All right. Okay, so that tells us that when that long cable is hooked up from this connector here on the outside light over to the connector here on the trunk light, that this trunk light's turn signal will power up. All right, so next we're going to test this large black connector here. Same thing, we're just going to take our negative wire here. I'm just going to connect it through to the back. And then we're going to take our positive wire. We're going to start with the red one first, which is for the brake. So I'm going to connect it to the middle connector here for the red wire. And then there you go. You can see my brake is coming on. It tells me my brake is working perfectly fine. Next, I'm going to take and connect the pin for the green connector. And you'll see my startup animations coming on. So it'll go through the animation cycle. And then when it's done, the running light will stay on like normal. And there you can see our running light is, now it's on. So animation cycle is complete and the running light is on. So that tells us that the outside light is working correctly. So the last thing we're going to test is with our ground still connected to the black connector. We're going to test just the red wire. Again, we don't need the blue wire because that's for the European fog light, which we don't use on the US models. We're just going to test with our positive wire connected to our little red wire here just to verify that it will send signal. And you can see there goes the brake. So that tells us that it will send the brake signal up to the trunk light without any problems. All right, so with that done, our outside light is complete being tested. So we know everything is working correctly on here. All the connections work correctly on the back of it. We know that it is capable of sending the signal for the turn signal and for the brake through the harness once it's connected here up to the trunk light. So the next thing we're going to test will be the trunk light itself. So now we're going to take our trunk light here. Again, this is going to be very, very similar to the outside light. The trunk light has a couple of connectors on the back of it. So if we look here, we can see this connector here, the white one here with the black and the white wire on it. This is our reverse light. So this is the black wire is the ground and the white wire is the positive for the power. Then we have this little connector right here. This connector has 3 wires on it. We have the black one, which is the ground, the green, which is the running light and animation, and then that blue is that European fog light, which again we won't be using since that's not used on the US models. And then we have a little small black connector here. This is that connector that goes to the long harness that runs from the trunk light over to that small connector on the outside light. So this is how this gets the signal for the turn signals and the brake. So we can see the 3 wires on there. Again, the blue one, which we're not going to be using, is for that European fog light. And then we have our red, which is for our brake, and our yellow, which is for our turn signal. So to test this, it's real simple. I'm just going to take and move this out of the way here so you can see. And then by laying my tail light flat, I can now access my wires. So I'm going to start with the reverse light first. Now I'm just going to take my little my negative connector here, and I'm going to connect it to the black wire for the ground. And then I'm going to take and connect for the white wire here, the little pin on the front. I'm going to connect my positive wire. And this should test my reverse light. Oh, there you go. Yep, so you can see a nice super bright reverse light coming on. That should be noticeable from a good ways off. Nice and working reverse light. All right, and then next, I'm gonna take and I'm going to plug it in my negative wire here to my ground wire. Now, you can again go through either here to the front. Just be a little careful because you'll notice the pins are a little close together here. And then on the back, you'll notice there are 4 ports. 1 port is not used because this is a universal plug. It's used on several types of taillights. So I'm just going to very carefully connect to my back of my black wire for my ground. If you connect from the front, again, just be careful. Make sure you're only touching the ground pin. You don't want to take and touch one of the other power pins. When you test it, you might cause a spark or something. And then I'm going to take my positive wire here, and we're first going to start with the green wire, since that's the only one we really need to test on the plug, but we will need it in a second to test the connections over here. So we're going to start with the middle pin, which is our green wire. And then you can see there goes our animation starting up there. Oops, sorry, there we go. There goes the animation starting up, going through its sequence, running all the way through, and here we go. Our running light is fully on. So that tells us our running light works perfectly fine. So the last thing we want to test is we're going to keep our negative wire here connected to the black ground connection on this white connector. And we're going to test out the 2 wires here for the power. So we're going to test the yellow one for the turn signal and the red one for the brake. So I'm just going to take my positive wire here and I'm going to connect it to the yellow one. And you can see there goes the turn signal coming on. Nice bright turn signal. So that tells us the turn signal is fully functional. And the next one we're going to test is the red wire here, which is for the brake light. There we go, there's our brake light. So our brake light's coming on. Brake light is fully functional. All right. So what this tells us then is that this trunk light is fully functional. Everything is working on it, all the various features and functions. It also tells that it is capable of receiving signal through the connector here, from the harness that goes from this connector over to the connector over on the outside light. The reverse light does function, the brake light functions, the turn signal function, the animation and running light functions. So this light is fully functional. So again, this test does need to be completed if you're having some sort of an issue with the light, one of the features not working, such as the turn signal doesn't work or the reverse light doesn't work. This is how you would directly test it out. Also check all your connections, make sure you don't see any bent wires, because if any of the little wires in here inside the connectors get bent in any sort of way or get damaged, that can cause the connection to not work correctly. We do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to send us an email at info@highrevsports.com, and thank you for watching.